Athlete Builder back at it 2020, and this year a new wrinkle is that we are now powered by the AEA Institute. More on that later. So we're welcome to invite back Tom Cillo, and it's a return visit for me and him because I had some technical difficulties last time. So Tom, I really appreciate you coming back on the show today. If you guys don't know Tom from Instagram fame, which is probably true because he's not quite there yet, but he's a D3 football player and he's out in Pennsylvania at Lycoming University. And his freshman year linebacker, and he's actually just a few years older than me. I turned 51 this year. I think Tom, you said you're 58.
That's correct. About 2 weeks away from 59.
2 weeks away from
Yeah,
59.
yeah.
And if you're from the financial world like I used to be at 59 and a half, you can start drawing on your IRA. So that's that's a little known fact that I bet most college athletes don't come across.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I
Probably
could
not.
forward that right to my tuition.
Right, there you go. Tom, so there's 4 games left, college football playoffs. Who do you got winning the whole thing?
That's a great question. When you get into these one-game scenarios, as well as I do, anything can happen. I would probably lean toward Georgia.
Okay. Why is that?
Just a rock solid program,
Mhm.
been there, done that. Now, having said that, with Indiana, being a Raider fan, I don't know how this is gonna play out. There's a lot of chatter about the quarterback and the Raiders potentially having the top pick, so I'm intrigued by that. I'll be seeing how that plays out.
For sure. I live in Indiana. My wife went to school there. Her daughter, her oldest, went to IU as well. And having been a Purdue grad 2 times myself, no part of me wants Indiana to win. With that said, I watch what they're doing there, and you cannot not be impressed. If you're anything at all about what we're about here with Athlete Builder, building people mentally and physically, what Signetti is doing there is outstanding. And I'm an Ohio State guy too, born and raised in Ohio. And I was like, I can't be mad at Signetti and Indiana for winning. Like, they're doing everything so well and so right. So I absolutely love watching them play. And no part of me really should in terms of loyalty. But as an individual fan of people and athletes, it's awesome what's going on there
And, growing up, you could probably relate to this. I mean, whenever somebody brought up Indiana, it was basketball.
for sure.
So who thought we would see the day when Indiana would be atop the rankings is
Right. Heisman
uncharted
Trophy winner.
territory. Yes.
Ranked number 1.
Mhm.
Now, I know Pennsylvania's a big state, and it's usually one or the other. So, do we like the Steelers or do we like the Eagles if you had to pick between those 2 teams?
Wow, boy, let me tell you, if you backed me into a corner
Right?
and I had to make a decision, I would definitely say the Eagles.
The Eagles.
Definitely the Eagles.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Growing up in the 70s, for anybody out there that's old enough to remember that, the Raiders-Steelers rivalry was pretty intense.
Yes.
So even as a kid, disdain for the Steelers, it's never left me,
Mm.
even to this day. So I was happy to see Cleveland beat them yesterday.
Well, I'm a Cleveland fan, and it's been nothing. I'm 51, and it's been nothing but 51 years of basic misery. And when people ask me, if people even try to tease me about the Browns, I just respond with, "They're not really relevant, man. Like they're not even." So the fact that the Browns won yesterday is nice. However, it hurts their draft pick. So in
Right.
true Cleveland form, they're finding any way to mess things up. So if you're from Pennsylvania, what's with the Raiders? How'd you develop that?
You know what? My dad was a Redskins fan.
Okay,
I had an older brother who was a Steelers fan, an older brother, a Packers fan, and the Raiders just I loved them. I loved the uniform.
yep,
I'm left-handed. Ken Stabler was left-handed. Maybe that was the connection. I have just loved them since I was a little kid and,
yeah,
still do to this day.
great fans. Crazy scene. Now, is it Oakland, LA, or Vegas that you feel more partial to?
Oh, man, to me, it's Oakland.
Right back
That's
in the
that's
day?
what I grew up with.
Al
I went out
Davis?
Yes, Al Davis, 2001. In 2001, I went out to Oakland with some friends to see a game. Man, it was a phenomenal trip. It just felt right. It felt like a home field. I've been to Vegas to see a game. It does not have that same feeling, of a home field, of a home fan base. And I don't know, just it's Oakland to me.
It's Oakland to you. So you were
Yeah.
just out in Vegas recently,
3 years ago, actually.
I thought I saw a video of you out there being invited out there by the,
That was in Philly.
Philly, okay.
That was in Philly 2
So in
weeks ago.
Philly, okay,
Yes,
so it was against the Raiders, but in Philly.
correct.
Gotcha, gotcha. Man, so when you're in a whole new city, like, how do you develop that fan base? And that's not your really question to ask, but they've been a California team forever, and now they're in Vegas. It seems a little off. Of course, I like things always to, stay the way they were, so who knows?
Well, even if you watch a Raider game on TV, I mean, a home game, you can see it on the TV. The opposing team's fan base, they swarm the stadium.
Yep.
It almost seems like a half and half, to be honest. Just kind of feels that way.
Being a Cleveland fan, the tailgating right outside in the Muni lot, there's not much to do in Cleveland in the winter other than drink and watch football. So any of those teams that used to, play in the cold, I always had an affinity for. So you're playing football as a college athlete this year. I had two right off the bat questions. First is, what was your welcome to college football moment? You're like, holy shit, this is real. And then also, what was your welcome to the classroom moment where you're like, man, it's been a minute since I sat down at a desk like this. So those two questions, answer them any order you like.
Well, the welcome to football moment, I've never played organized football to this point, a lot of sandlot growing up. So this was a new experience for me. And having said that, camp, or summer camp, training camp, whatever you want to call it, it's freaking tough. It's tough. It's meant to break you, I believe. And kids did quit. But anyway, it's hot. You're doing a lot of running, a lot of drills. And I had to correct you from the onset. You had said linebacker. Actually, I'd been working at nose tackle.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So tough occupation in there. And we
Yes.
were doing what they call some 2-on-1 drills in camp, where you got to take on two offensive linemen
Mhm.
and try to beat that. And again, it's with my age, it was tough. And with my size, it was tough. I'm about 220 pounds, and kids are big now,
Yeah.
at every level. And boy, I took a shot to the rib cage, a pretty good punch, and I felt it
Yeah.
for days, several days, and actually had some X-rays. I thought maybe I had some broken ribs. That was not the case, but that was my welcome to college football moment,
Mm.
if you will. And it became very clear to me very quickly that this is very real and it's very physical.
Right. For sure.
The what? Go ahead. Did you have
No,
something?
no, good. No, good.
Okay, the welcome to the classroom moment, I was intimidated by that even before I stepped in the classroom. I think, I had concerns coming into this. I had concerns physically, I had concerns financially, and I had concerns academically. It'd been 41 years since I've stepped foot in a classroom.
Mm.
I think I stressed over the academic side of it more than the others, even though they were all legitimate concerns. The prospect of stepping in the classroom, it intimidated me. And I wasn't going back to high school. I don't know if I applied myself as much as I could have back then. Probably a lot of people can say that. So after 41 years, as intimidated as I had two goals that I set was to not miss any class time.
Nice.
And two was to make the dean's list, as intimidated as I was by that. And, and again, I'm a true college freshman. I never had this experience before. And so my one class, the professor said week one, she said, on average, you're going to read about 300 pages a week. And so if you want to call that my welcome to the academic
Right?
moment, that would have been it. I'm like, Is she serious about this? Like 300 pages?" And as the course went through the semester, I mean, it was a lot of reading. It was a lot of study time. So those were my welcome to college moments, if you will.
Gotcha. Well, you said you worked for Williamsport 33 years, so I would guess and hope that 33 years after high school, you're probably a little more mature, probably took school a little more seriously now that you're older. I know I did. My freshman year at Purdue, my undergraduate, didn't do so hot at all. But when I went back for my MBA, I finished top of the list. You get a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and you're not making you just making some better choices. For having not played football, I saw some videos. I saw you pulling a fire truck, and we used to do a lot of strongman stuff at my gym. Excuse me, I was the state chair, so we've done that. I saw some powerlifting meet and some records. So squat, bench, deadlift. So it looked like you had some raw strength and some power, right? Football is you also have to be in shape and fast and recover quickly. So there's the conditioning component, which if you're in strongman and powerlifting, there's very little of that unless you may be pushing some sleds. Did you do anything to get ready for camp conditioning wise?
Absolutely. 100%. I have a passion for the weight room. I just do. I loved it. I never even did a deadlift until my mid 30s. But when I did, I absolutely fell in love with it. I'll do them till the day I die or till my body says you
No
can't
more,
do it anymore.
right?
But my absolute favorite lift, if you look at just about any lift in a gym, you can have somebody spot you on the bench, on the squat,
Yep,
triceps, biceps, anything, any different lifts. You can just about have a spot. Thing about the deadlift, one of the things that appeals to me is it's you versus the bar, basically.
yep,
Who's going to win? And I love the challenge of it. I mean, you could argue there's some Olympic lifts that, you can't really have a spotter with, but I don't know. I just love the deadlift. But anyway, having said that, when I made this decision to attempt to play college football, a good friend of mine who also serves as my trainer, Dave Belomo, he said, I'll help train you. And I did a boatload of conditioning work. I backed off the weights and I did a lot of sprint work, a lot of soft tissue work, a lot of
mhm,
agility work, and a lot of running. I really picked up the conditioning because I didn't come into this just to say, I'm going to do this. I came into this with a belief in my mind that I could really pull this off and really make an impact on the football field. That was really my original intent, was to come in here and compete and make a difference. So I prepared very, very intense training to get to this point.
with that approach, that is the crux of what I believe here and what we're trying to instill with this platform, with this podcast, that if you have some time and you go through all the areas and you have someone helping you, you can really pretty much do anything as long as you have a long enough runway. I totally empathize with you said you didn't deadlift until your 30s. I didn't start lifting until my mid 30s, didn't open my CrossFit gym until 38. So I wasn't really doing anything like that. And then I wasn't doing my first powerlifting meet until I was over 40. So I was 45 before I benched 315. So I totally get that. But if you build yourself with your mindset, which you were already committed and driven, so then you need to have the knowledge of the sport. In this case, you had a trainer help you to train you differently than just lifting.
Right.
Then there's the teammate component, which we'll get into later. Then there's the physical training, and then there's your nutrition and recovery. And you already mentioned soft tissue. Now, if you're an 18, 19-year-old kid, you could probably go out and get drunk as shit Friday night and recover Saturday morning for some work, right?
Right.
But if you're like you or me and you get drunk as shit, it's going to be 3 days before you feel pretty much normal again. When we talked last time, you mentioned that as you were winding down your prior career, you thought, I got a shot. I could probably pull this off. I could probably pull this off. And you're thinking about it for a little while. But you never played organized sport. Like, even if you're strong enough physically and you got in shape, there's still like, hey, what's an X? What's an O? What's the difference between a center and nose tackle and what the different job duties? Didn't that make you a little nervous about like those playbooks are extensive now, right? The iPads, like there's a lot to learn. Didn't that make you a little nervous about learning the actual mechanics of playing football?
Oh my goodness, big time nervous. Absolutely. There's such a cerebral part to the game.
Sure.
You know, you watch it on TV, you love it, you might be a big fan, but when you get in that room and in those meetings and you're trying to learn the playbook, you're trying to learn the terminology, and in my case at nose tackle, I'm like, is my stance even right? Do I have my stance set up? Do I have the right gap covered? And there was, for me, there was so much to try to process. And the coaches would preach, come game day, don't think, just line up and play and react. Well, that wasn't easy for me.
Sure.
Every practice, every rep, I'm trying to think stuff through in my head. So, at the end of the day, I'm still a true freshman trying to learn a position, and that was a tremendous challenge.
Gotta be. Things are not automatic very quickly, but I bet if you walked into a dark room, your instinct would be to turn on the light switch.
Mhm.
Well, to get to that instinctive player capability, confidence only comes from reps. And one of the things I asked you about for knowledge, you said reps, reps, reps. These like my son who just finished his football career at Ball State, he had been playing since he's 7. He's 23. Like there's reps for so many years. He had played on offense and on defense, so you see so much of it. So to cram all that in your freshman year, That must have been brutal. And then you have, 300 pages a week. That's just one lady telling you to do that, plus the rest of your classes. And the true spirit of the and sense of the word freshman, it's gotta be just nothing but a boatload of work. Do the kids look at you weird like, "Hey, come on, Pi hey, coach, what are you doing in here? The coach's room's over there." Like, "No, I'm actually a player." Talk about how the culture, brought you in initially, and then over the course of the season, and then by the end, whether it was the players or the coaches.
Well, there was some skepticism out of the gate, and I get it. I
Yep.
mean, I totally understand. This isn't uncommon. It's extremely uncommon. And about a week prior to camp, one of the defensive linemen got everybody onto a Zoom call, and one fella, he says, "I have a question for Tom." And he paused several times before he asked it, and I kinda interrupted him. I said, "Look, brother, just get it out. I've been waiting for it. You're not gonna offend me. You're not gonna catch me off guard."
Yeah,
He says, he says, "Tom, why do you wanna do this, and can you even do it?"
right.
And I said, "Well, that's a fair question." And I said, "Well, we're gonna find out." I said, "But to me, at the end of the day," I said, "the only difference between you and I is our birth certificate." I said, "You're coming into camp to compete. I'm coming in camp to compete." And, that's as I see it, that's the only difference. And he said, "Okay, fair answer." So we get to camp, and this was funny. We had to meet 7 a.m. every day through camp for mandatory breakfast in the cafeteria. And the first day I walked in, the woman at the counter, there were two clipboards, and one for the players to sign in, one for the coaches. So she hands me
Coach's clipboard.
the coach's clipboard.
Yeah,
And I said, "I can't, I'm not going to sign this one." I said, "I'm a player." And she looked right in the eye and she says, "Oh, come on, stop it." And I said, "I'm serious. I'm a player." So I pulled out my student
an
ID,
ID,
and
right?
we got a good laugh out of it. But day one of camp was all meetings. It was just nothing physical, nothing on the field. And the one meeting, the coach up on the board, he had a list of all the incoming freshmen. And so what the freshmen had to do was state their name and what school they were from and their year of graduation,
Yeah,
which they were all 2025 coming into this.
here we
But
go.
my name was at the bottom of that chart, and I was sitting in the very front row. So when it got to me, I stood up, I did a 180, and I faced, it was kind of like an auditorium setting, and I faced the entire crowd. Now the one assistant coach, Coach Weiser, back in 1980 in junior high school, he was my civics teacher.
No
Here
kidding.
here we are 45 years later, and, I looked at the guys and I said, "Tom Cillo, Williamsport Area High School." I said, "Class of 1984." And I looked at Coach Weiser and I said, "That bitch right there was teaching me in 1980." And I said, "45 years later, he's still doing it." And the guys just went into an uproar,
That's
and,
awesome.
so that kinda lightened the mood.
Yeah,
But then day 2, we had to do our lifting test. Well, we did a standing broad jump test, vertical jump test, which I actually did pretty decent at, and then we went down to the weight room, and we had to do some lifting tests down in the weight room. So then I got the guys' attention, because again, I'm accomplished to a degree in the weight room. Didn't intimidate me like the football field or the academics. And so we did our lifting tests, and I'm assuming they were thinking, okay, this he's in shape. So then we had lunch. Then we went for our conditioning tests. And the defensive linemen, what we had to do, started the goal line, 15-yard line, and back. Okay,
mhm,
so do the math, 30 yards. You had to do it in 6 seconds.
yep,
And you had to step over that line too. Don't cheat the line. So we had to do that 6 seconds, but we had to do it 16 times. And my conditioning work paid off. I'm telling you, Jim, I had it cooking. Like
right.
I was smoking some guys in the process and, knocked it out 16 for 16. So
Beautiful.
after the weight room and the conditioning, and I think the guy saw that I was committed to this, and I was just ready to be Tom, be a part of the team.
Yep. When I say confidence comes from reps, it's not just your own confidence, right? It's for your teammates around you and the coaches. And if the coaches see that you can have the correct gap discipline, your assignment sound, you can shed blocks, then they develop confidence in you because they've seen reps with you now. So all th all those things you just mentioned, you held your own in the weight room, and if you're, in a male world, a lot of things are revolving around respect. So if you earn a little bit of respect in the weight room, "Oh, this guy didn't show up just, old man strength. He actually showed up in shape, so he was able to handle the conditioning. Alright, so physically, he has some tools. If he can learn the playbook, and then now how can he execute?" And which is, the main factor because you can be great in the weight room and then dog shit on the field and vice versa. At 220 pounds of nose tackle, like, there's the physics is force equals mass times acceleration, right? And if you're accelerating quickly, but you're 220 pounds, and those linemen are 6'3" to 6'6", 280 to 330, right? And there's Tom at 220. How many more calories did you have to put in during the season just so you didn't get your ass kicked?
It was tough. Just getting through camp was a little shy of 2 weeks, and it was hard to keep my weight up.
Sure.
Obviously, you're at the time of the year, the weather's pretty hot, you're talking 90-ish
Yep.
and up. Long days, 7 a.m. breakfast, and by the time you wrap up, there was time it was 9:30 at night, we were getting done,
Mhm.
so, again, do the math, 12 to 14-hour days, long days, tiring days, physical days, and I tried to up my calorie intake, and I still had a hard time keeping my weight up just because of the physicality of it.
Yep.
It's tough. It is tough.
I tell kids and they laugh at me. I said, "Well, I'm gonna be 100% right. You can laugh all you want, but if you don't have your own little mini cooler on wheels that you're dragging from into the classroom, into meetings, where you're constantly having calories, because at that burn rate, like, some of those big linemen will lose 8 to 12 pounds in a session that are playing in the pros 'cause, of the workload is so high, and, when you guys have a much faster metabolism, the young kids, not so much you and me, but the math is still the math. I said, "Well, I ate a lot." I said, "Yes, you did eat a lot. You simply didn't eat enough." "Well, I lost weight." "Yeah, you sure as shit did because you need to put in more food." And they're like, "Well, I'm full." I said, "I get that. Now it comes down to calories per bite. How can we get more calories?" So, adding fat to almost everything, putting olive oil on your pizza, putting sour cream and guacamole on everything, right? So, like,
Yeah.
there's the math behind it, and people will tell you at the end, you know what? They'll say, "It wasn't the lifting that was the hardest." A lot of times the food was the hardest because, if they don't get it in, then they're not at the right spot. Are they gonna keep you at nose tackle, you think?
No.
No.
No, and I don't wanna keep it nose tackle, to be quite frank about it.
Sure.
My initial conversation with the coach coming into this, I wanted to, try tight end. I wanted to play tight end. I felt I was athletic enough to pull that off. We can catch the ball. And he said, "Well, I already got 3 guys." There was 3 senior tight ends on the roster.
Okay.
And I said, "Can we try defensive end, and give that a shot?" And that was what we talked about. And then as we got into this, they moved me into nose tackle because the thought was, there's not as much to learn in at nose than there is at other positions.
Sure.
So I was willing to try whatever. I didn't want no special treatment. I didn't, want anything different than anybody else. And so I went into nose tackle. Again, at the end of the day, it was tough, man. It was tough.
With 3 senior tight ends, are they all gone now? Does it open back up the discussion about you maybe moving over to the offensive side?
Well, I'd like to have that discussion. Yes. So we'll see. But that's
Gotcha.
my belief at this point.
So you clearly wanna stick with it. What are you studying?
You know, when I came into this, I looked at criminal justice. The way things that have unfolded, which is still kind of surreal to me at times, but we can get into that too. I'm going to look into next semester, I'm going to look into some media and communications. The way things have unfolded, I may look into some public speaking.
Gotcha. So I would say, like similar to me, like I find a lot of parallels. It seems like, yeah, you're doing this for yourself first, maybe you and your family. You said you can do it, prove it to yourself. But if anything, we're called to leave the world a better place. And if you can make an impact, tell your story. It's not, as long as it doesn't sound like you're just some freak novelty. You're actually putting in the reps. You're actually doing the work and holding your own. And when I was having been a strength athlete for a number of years, this last year, the whole idea with running the podcast is to make an impact, to make people better mentally and physically. And I had a bunch of Navy SEALs on. They asked me to do this swim across the Hudson River Navy SEAL swim where it's 3 miles, a bunch of push-ups and pull-ups and running. And I'm like, I'm a bigger guy. Like I can do some steady state cardio, but I've never swam in my life other than when I was a kid. So I took a full year runway to learn how to swim, and then learn how to swim with fins, and then learn how to swim in open water, and, you know, to make an impact with that group, to prove to myself that in my 50s, I could take a strength athlete and have him swim across the Hudson River. So a lot of ups and downs with that, and then I never thought that I would be using this platform to, like, do more public speaking, but similar to you, it seems to be the calling that if you can do some things that are pretty neat, and you have a process that you can show other folks wanna do things that are pretty neat, and then you can make an impact that way. So is that how college is changing for you from going to criminal justice to maybe working more media?
Yeah, I say that it's fair to say that. And I've had several people say to me, that I've done a load of Zooms and podcasts and interviews and live TV.
Right.
Initially, it was extremely intimidating to me. I would say I've gotten a little better with it, but I've had a number of people say, Tom, you look so comfortable, you look natural on camera, relaxed, which honestly wasn't the case. I mean, I don't know if you had seen, I was actually live in Manhattan
Today Show.
on the Today Show.
Yeah.
And the woman backstage that I had been in contact with that set all this up, she greeted me when I got to the studio and she says, Tom, how you doing? I said, I'm really nervous. Live TV, in New York City. And she says, don't be nervous. She said, look, you're going to see. She said, it's so chill. And she said, look, if it's any consolation, Allen Iverson was just here and he said the same thing. He was nervous. So I said, well, okay, then if Allen's okay, then I'm okay.
Right, right.
But it was unnerving. Yeah, the way things that have unfolded, that's what I'm kind of leaning towards now. And actually, I've had one invite already. It's about 3 hours from where I live. I was asked to speak at it's called the Big 30, their conference, high school Big 30 football banquet. They asked if
Okay.
I would be a guest speaker. So I went up there. If it wasn't 3 weeks ago, it was 2 weeks, and on a Sunday, and I obviously accepted the invite. It's a different feeling when you're standing at a podium, and I'm gonna estimate maybe 300 people there, and you're standing there and you're looking at people and you're kind of wondering, are they engaged? Are they locked into what I'm saying? And so it's a different feeling, but it was good exposure for me to get into that arena. And then I saw certain people getting emotional. So I thought, okay, the story's connecting. So
Mhm.
it was a good experience for me, and by the way, I told the all the young men in attendance, I said, "Look, if any of you dudes plan on playing at the next level," I said, "you just better make your mind up. You better lock in." And when I say that, I said, "Look, you know, you better live in the weight room." I said, "Diet, sleep, studies, commitment." I said, "If you go into this half-assed, you're in for a rude awakening."
Painful.
So that was my message to them. So yeah, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards now.
When, people say, "If you want a good laugh, tell God your plans," right?
Yeah,
And so if you go into criminal justice and you're taking on 300 pages a week classes, and now you're doing media, which is a whole bunch of different things. So
right.
that's outstanding, Tom, to go and make an impact like that. So I gotta believe freshman year, I don't know if they redshirted you or not, but you're probably more support role. Talk about how being in a support role as a teammate still helps the team win championships, makes a difference.
Absolutely. I would call it the Dennis Rodman mindset. And I never liked him as a player. I'm a huge Celtic fan. Couldn't
Gotcha.
stand the Pistons.
Right? Me neither.
But we'll say that I always appreciated Rodman. And
Yep.
and the way I saw it was he knew his role. That
Yep.
guy went out and got 18, 20, 25 rebounds a night. He knew his role with that team. And that's kind of where I was at. Again, it was difficult to learn the playbook, to do it on the field. So my mindset was I'm going to be the best teammate that I can be in the weight room, in the locker room, off the field, whatever it takes. I'm going to do it to be the best teammate that I can be to these guys. So, and again, I have a passion for the weight room. That was not an issue. Meshed with the guys great in there, meshed well in the locker room. And every Monday from evening from 6:30 to 8 was mandatory study hall
Study
for
tables.
all freshman football players
Right.
and or upperclassmen who didn't carry a certain GPA.
GPA. Yep.
So I don't on a given Monday night, there was, I'm going to say 40 dudes in there, maybe 45. And it was honestly, it was hard to study. It's kind of like a big chatterbox at times. But again, I never asked for any special treatment. I'm like, this is part of the program. I'll be there. And well, early on in the process, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna liven this up just a tad. So I would buy 4 little bags of beef jerky. And when I would go into the study hall, I just kind of fling them out to certain guys. And well, it didn't take long. A few weeks into this, I tried to hide it in my backpack, but as soon as I walked in the room, the guys were sniffing me out, saying, "What do you got this week, Tom? What do you got?" And I'm trying to take mental notes of who had already gotten something the week before. Trying not to double up with anybody. After a bit, I started buying 6 bags, and I'm flinging the jerky out, and I don't know, it was a hit. And actually, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks to the end of the season, we had a real cold practice. It was cold, man. It was cold. And we didn't have much time then to get to the study hall. And I already had the beef jerky in my car, because the field is a few blocks from the campus. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'll take it up, step it up a notch, if you will. So I ran to Burger King quick,
No way.
and I got 10 burgers and a Whopper. That was gonna be the grand prize. So and I had a bag of apples in my car. I don't even know why, but I had them in there. So we get to the study hall, and I'm flinging jerky out, and then when the guys saw the Burger King bag, they went crazy.
Sure.
So throwing burgers into the crowd, and there was always an assistant coach there, to oversee the study hall. So I gave him the Whopper, and I said, "Here, coach is giving this out." I said, "Everybody who wants it, put your hand up." I don't know how many guys put their hand up, but
Sure.
they had to pick a number between 1 and 100, and the closest cat
Got
wins it. And I don't. It was great. It was just, I'm not going to lie. I was very intentional about impacting the guys and
Sure.
bonding with the guys, and that was just one of the ways that I tried to do that.
It doesn't take a lot, and, I'll say that, like, when we have 6 kids in my family, I'm like, "Man, the girls are mean, but the boys are dumb," you know? And that's not always the case, and that's overgeneralization, obviously, and I fall in that guy category, but I've done dumb things too. But a lot of times, just hanging out and doing something silly, is a good way to, make that connection. Did they have any hazing, a little, for fun hazing or, a lot of times the freshmen have to perform a little talent show. They have any of that for you guys?
No, no hazing.
No
I
hazing.
can assure you that. And actually, coach made that clear from the start that, that there wouldn't be any hazing incidents. And listen, I'm going to say this too, and I had nothing to compare it to, again, because I had no
Right.
organized football experience. But our coach, man, what a great job he did. And listen, he's very passionate about this school and about the kids. I call them kids, and
Yeah,
and the
should.
program, man. And I've stated before you, I don't believe you can necessarily fake being genuine and passionate,
All the
and
time.
those are things that I would apply to him. He is really into what he does, and I really appreciate him for that.
It cares a lot. It cares a lot. You can come in as a player or as an employee or even a family member, and you're just mediocre, meh, and kinda down, but the leader is energetic. It's gonna raise your level a little bit,
Right.
right? And if you're the person that's always like that, we have one of our coaches, Rob, he's always in a good mood and energetic. No one's having a bad time around that guy, you know? So even when you're doing hard things, it's like, "That's alright," you know? What's something where you thought academically and someone who made the dean list, you had a lot of wins there, but also athletically, you thought, "Man, I look back in that last semester, I kinda sucked there. I better improve that in this next semester or before this next season starts."
Academically, I would say I gotta do a better job of keeping a planner with me
Mm,
and actually writing stuff down, like day to day things that I have to get done. And, you know, but I will, in my defense, yes, I got to get better at that. In my defense, this was a very challenging semester as far as once this story started gaining some traction and ended up with some national notoriety, there were so many people reaching out, like so many, I mean, multiple requests a day. And I felt bad. The SID here at the school, he intercepted a lot of stuff. I felt bad for him. He was getting swamped with requests. And again, the dean's list was a goal for me. But once this started to gain a following, I thought, what a great message to put out there that after 41 years away from the classroom, if you commit to it, you can get it done.
Yeah,
But it was tough because, there was a guy wanted to call me at 8:30 one evening and do a phone interview. And I said, yeah, I can do that. He had a meeting and he said he couldn't call till 8:30. So I'm actually in bed with books all around me and I'm doing studies and 8:30 he calls on the dot and he said, "We probably won't even need a half hour." And I said, "Well, that's fine." Well, 50 minutes later, we're still on the phone. I'm
goodness,
laying in bed with my eyes closed. I'm talking, and
right?
by the time we hung up, I'm like,
Dead asleep,
"'Cause I'm out.
right?
I'm going to sleep." And there were times where practice would end
Yep,
and you just want to get cleaned up. You want to get something to eat and try to stay ahead of your studies. I would have a laptop at the stadium. I'd run up in the press box where it was quiet. I would do a Zoom or a interview or whatever, on the laptop. And then I'd have to go do a phone interview. And I mean, when this thing was at its peak, it was tough. People would say to me, "You're famous, you look so relaxed on camera." Listen, I can tell you, there were times behind closed doors, I was ready to
mhm,
multiple times. Like, it was so challenging to find the day-to-day energy to pull this off, the sleep requirement, the diet requirement, the academic requirement. There was so much going on, and it was such a challenge for me.
I bet.
Again, there were times where I'd get behind closed doors and I'd question myself. I'd say, "Can you do this, man? Why are you here? Why are you going through this?" And, I had my doubts. They were very real. But at the end of the day, I pushed through hard, man. And when I saw my grades and what I ended up with, I earned that. And I was very proud of that and proud of the message that it puts out there to people that, if you apply yourself, whether it, athletically, academically, in your work life, good things can happen.
I think there's 2 things there that are huge, and in so many ways, you had a 4 or 5-month learning curve that was drinking through a fire hose. If you just the football alone, having never played, that's drinking through a fire hose. Having not done academics in a long time, same deal. Then you had a 3rd career of trying to build a following and a brand of what you're trying to do. That's a whole 3rd career with a learning curve. So, you can't say yes to anything you like. You can only say yes to the few things that you love. 'Cause I like a ton of things. I like drinking beer, I like drinking whiskey, I like smoking cigars. I can't be doing that all the time. I like doing
Right.
that stuff, but I love living longer and doing things with my kids, right? Or preparing for that swim. In terms of, like, getting overwhelmed with all the asks, 'cause, I reached out to you a few times and you were busy, and I totally get that, so we weren't able to like, we're recording here after Christmas. Season's long over, and I liken it to what you said about you said you love the deadlift, right? There's no chance you're maxing out or lifting heavy deadlifts multiple days in a row. There's no way. You're not gonna deadlift Monday, Tuesday through Saturday, Sunday, right? You're not having hard practices 7 days in a row. So if you're doing 7 days in a row of constant interviews and Zoom calls, it's not how hard you train, it's how hard you train, recover, and then train hard. So I gotta believe if you're doing 4 calls a day and you're totally waxed and the next day you can't do any, then 4 calls would have been too many. So maybe you do 2 calls every other day or every 3rd day, because once you're burned out, then all you can do is rest or you get hurt. So if you're exhausted, you're gonna get hurt in the weight room, or if you get exhausted, you're gonna get hurt in the classroom with bad grades, right? Or you get if you're really tired and you're slow on a play and you're out of position, you probably get physically hurt because you're out of position, ACL, shoulder problem. And then once you're burned out, like even if you want to be good to go for the Today Show, you're too wrecked. Learn it, like I said, it's a big learning curve, and it's going to change next year as well. I don't know how many people thought that, hey, this guy's going to actually make the team, going to be able to play with the guys, and then we're looking at you're endorsed by Cream, which I can absolutely vouch for. Like, I'm 51, my wife's 54, one of our coaches in his 60s. With soccer moms and soccer dads in the suburbs out here on the west side of Indianapolis, people need things like that. And then I saw Leaf trading cards. Like, I still have football cards, from when I was a kid.
Right.
Like, so growing up in Cleveland, I got Bernie Kosar's, rookie card and shit like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
so tell me about this the Cream deal alone. They reach out to you, hey, old man, you want to partner up? because, you gotta be in a lot of pain, and we're in the pain business. So how's that go?
Yeah, absolutely. They reached out to me and it was a perfect partnership.
Right.
You know, their product is geared for pain relief and maybe a little bit of an older crowd, if you will. And
Yep.
I certainly fit the description. And you know, we just struck a partnership and it was perfect. And Leaf Trading, they reached out to me as well. That matter of fact, I called them 2 weeks ago. I had to sign my name 1,000 times. They said they would do up to 1,000 cards.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure if they sold them all, but, there was only like a 3-week window to buy them. I have actually had several people reach out to me after the fact and say, "How can we get your card?" And, so I called Leaf and I didn't talk to anyone. I left a message and I said, "You know, this is Tom Cillo, and you made a card for me, and I don't know how all this works, but I've had several people reach out. Can they still get the card? You know, can you make more?" I don't That was my message, and I haven't heard back yet. But it's the Asper deal, that was kinda neat, to become the oldest, collegiate athlete to secure an NIL deal
Mhm.
of that nature. So I guess you could say we both made history on that front.
Love that.
But again, a lot of hard work has gone into this, and it doesn't end here. It's gonna have to continue. Staples ran a whole marketing campaign on what? You remember? Hit the easy button,
The easy button, that's right.
okay? You know, Look at food now. Look at meals. You used to say, "Hey, honey, do you want to go out to eat?" Well, now with DoorDash, you can have just about anything you want brought right to your bedroom
Right. They probably do it.
in the classroom. I didn't do it, okay, but how many people use it? Is it chat? Is it
GPT.
GPT now?
Yeah.
You can have a 5-page paper written in about 11 seconds.
Right.
So there's so many avenues now that try to make things easy, but guess what? There's still things in life where you have to put the time in and the work in to make it a reality.
Yes. So that leads me to a follow-up question. So you're 18 years old, and you're going to college this time around to play football at Lycoming University. Lycoming, excuse me, Lycoming. I don't say it correctly. What's the advice you give to your kid, to the 18-year-old Tom Cillo at Lycoming University? What's the advice, 2 or 3 things that, "Hey, you need to do these things," not, "Hey, but it'd be kinda nice if you did them." No, like, you must, that's the word, must do these things if you want a chance at any level of success on the field, off the field, professionally, or what? What's the advice you give to your 18-year-old self?
Boy, having gone through what I went through, I would say number one, and it's so simplistic sounding, but in reality, it's so powerful. Get enough rest. I think people generally in life don't get enough sleep or enough rest. And I can vouch for what I just went through the last few months, being sleep deprived, how critical of a need that is to fulfill. So get enough rest, develop some good study habits. You're going to need them. And my buddy Dave told me coming into this, he said, look, because I told him how intimidated I was by the classroom. And he said, sit up front. He said, don't
That's a
go
good
to
one.
sleep. He said, take great notes.
Yep.
Take great note, and that's what I would encourage anybody to do. I have several notebooks where every day, every class, I was handwriting. A lot of kids would type stuff up, but I don't. Maybe it's a generational gap, but I just found value in handwriting a lot of the notes out. So I took really good notes, and I would say sleep, take great notes, and your diet plays such a crucial role too. It's easy for your diet to go to crap, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
overdose on fast food and whatever stuff out of vending machines. So I don't know. Those are 3 things that I would encourage. And it's harder when you're 18, you want to eat whatever's in front of you and you want to stay up late and social media or watch TV or party, college kids party. And so I don't know. Those are some areas I would suggest, if
Yes,
you
for
will.
sure. My second go around, I was in MBA school at Purdue, and, I had a binder for every class. So a new semester, I had, 5, 6, 7 classes, new binder, and one section would just be the notes from the class. Next section would be like quizzes. Next section would be tests, projects. So I have it all of it, right there. And then I just kept the binders until I graduated. And so I could just pull them off the shelf. Number 2, my dad said, and I didn't do this as a undergrad, he goes, treat your day, 7 to 5, 7 to 6. So even if you don't have class until 10, 11 o'clock, get up in the morning and either do work, study, laundry, work out, but treat it like a regular day. If your class doesn't start till noon, don't sleep until 11, which means that you went to bed at 2,
Yeah,
right? 2 or
right.
probably 3.
Yeah.
So, if you treat your day like my wife will tell you, Monday through Thursday, she would put in 50 plus hours of work, but we'll go out drinking Thursday night. Friday was pretty light. So come Saturday and Sunday, she was ready for the weekend. So Sunday she'd be working, but she would put in a ton of work as if she were working like 10-hour, 12-hour days. And if you can organize it like that, then maybe you got a shot. My son Jack played football. Like when they're Fridays were always travel days when they played on Saturday. Even a home game was a travel day. So they put all the kids in a hotel room the Friday night before home games, so that way they're not out screwing around. But I would call him on those Friday nights, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm doing homework." It's 7, 8 o'clock on Friday. He goes, "Yeah, if I wanna get it done, this is my window."
Yeah.
Saturdays are always shot, and after the games, you don't feel like doing a thing because usually you're in pain. And then Sunday, you're probably I think Sunday is usually a lift, Monday's an off day. So, he's like, "Friday night isn't going out and have fun night. You're still working, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to say no to some of the things that you like and say yes to the things that you love."
Can you pause a moment?
Yep. Okay, so I hit mark clip. Okay.
I have to piss like a racehorse.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
Yep.
So I'm gonna have to find a spot to plug in. My battery's getting low here. Bear with me.
We only have a couple minutes left anyways, Tom, so we'll be
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Alright, go ahead. You were say something?
Yeah, I can add to the academic side too, and the commitment that it takes. When we would go to road games, they only take so many players because of cost, and I didn't make the cut, so I was only dressing for home games, and there's no shame in saying that.
That's the way it is.
At the end of the day, I just wasn't quite good enough. So Saturdays, you love football, right?
Yeah.
I love football. I would love nothing more than to spend about 8 to 10 hours
Watch
watching
football.
college football.
Start with college game day at 9 a.m. and then
You
go
know,
all the way into the evening,
getting subs or
right?
pizza or what have you. But the reality has to take over at times, and so I would spend 3 to 4 hours on Saturday and Sunday, actually, in the school library, staying ahead of my classwork. I felt I needed to do that, and it paid off,
Sure.
honestly.
Right.
And so that's another important aspect of all this is, if you think you have free time, you don't really have free time.
Right.
Not in this venue.
Not if you're trying to achieve anything at all. Otherwise, you got plenty of free time. Tom, for someone who, likes life in the gym, what do you listen to when you're lifting?
I'm an AC/DC guy, man.
Right?
Love my rock, yeah.
Alright. What's a bucket list adventure to go on, either by yourself or you and your kids, where it's a place you guys haven't been before?
Grand Canyon.
It's awesome.
I would love to explore the Grand Canyon. I'm very intrigued by it. I've flown over it, haven't
Mhm.
experienced it yet, but I would like to cross that off my bucket list.
If you can, try to raft a few days. If you climb down to the bottom, which is
Mhm.
no joke, don't come back the same day.
Okay.
Stay down there for a day and come back the next day when you're fresh.
Okay.
Man, and the weather is huge. Like, you go there the wrong time of year and you're in the bottom, you could be 120. Yeah, yeah, so, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sports movie, if you can pick 1 or 2,
I loved Any Given Sunday,
right?
you know?
The Inch's speech, Steamin' Willie
Y
Beamin',
Yeah, yeah.
right? Right?
Yeah, was it Pacino? I mean, what a performance
What a
he
speech,
gave in it. Yeah. Yeah,
fighting for
good
those
stuff.
inches. Favorite sport to watch?
Football.
Favorite player to watch, any sport, living or dead?
Man, my God, my favorite athlete of all time, bar none, the greatest competitor I've ever witnessed, Larry Bird.
Awesome, right?
Yeah,
He's from around here, French Lick, Indiana.
right.
You have a book or 2 for us?
Growing up a Raider fan, I loved Al Davis. I read a book on Al Davis previously, and boy, what an intriguing guy, man. That was a neat book.
Awesome. You
Yeah.
have a superhero you like?
I'd probably go with Batman.
Okay. How about a villain?
Geez, boy, I would say anything to do with the Kansas City Chiefs, but I'd say probably the Riddler. Do you remember the
Oh,
Riddler
yeah.
from Batman growing up?
He would give clues
Yeah,
on how to
yeah,
beat him, but it's usually a step ahead. I like, a lot of people say the Joker, especially the Heath
yeah.
Ledger version. I like Hannibal Lecter as a
Oh,
villain.
wow. Okay. Yeah,
I like him quite a bit.
yeah.
What's your favorite lift?
The deadlift, man. Again, the deadlift. I'm passionate about it. Love it.
What about sumo deadlift?
I did them years ago. What I find now, the older I get, is I'm not quite as flexible to
Gotcha.
perform the sumos as opposed to conventional.
Sumo's is outstanding to build yourself to move laterally.
Yes.
So if you're moving side to side, sumo translates a lot better than conventional. I like
Mm.
them both for different reasons, and they're excellent complements. You have a quote for us?
Yeah. I heard this years ago and it always stuck with me. It said, better to remain silent and be considered a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
It's
That always stuck with me.
Yep,
There's times I might be in a certain setting or platform and you want to be heard, you want to say something. And I'm like, nah, just don't hold it
gotcha.
in.
Hold
Yeah.
it in. Give us the information about Asper Cream, Leaf trading cards, where to find you. Tell us all that good stuff.
All my social media is to, just type my name in, Tom Cillo or Cillo.tom, and you'll find me.
Okay, awesome. Well, Tom, we had a great time having you on, and looking forward to watching your career over the years.
Mm.
Reach out to us. For those that want to reach out to us, info@athlete-builder.com, and check out the AEA Institute, the Mental Edge. We'll be talking about that more and more throughout 2026. But Athlete Builder is now powered by the AEA Institute. And Tom, man, good luck in 2026. Keep us posted on things. We're going to follow you with great concern because we're excited about it, and we really enjoyed having you on. Thank you for the gift of your time and efforts today.
My pleasure. Appreciate it. Good talking to you.
See ya.
All right. See ya.
This is placeholder media that you'll see if you add a layout to an empty scene. You can go ahead and delete it.